Hi everyone and welcome to my channel, and my name is Ingrid, so thank you so much for joining me today. Now I know I've been away for a while. Work has been holding me down. There are a lot of people out there who haven't filed their taxes apparently. But that being said, I don't want to bore you with that. I would like to share with you guys 4 overrated preppers items. Now, as I was consolidating my preps, I realized that there are just items that I don't need to add anytime soon. And these items, I don't even need to stock large amount of them. So you guys, please note that you may not agree with some of these preppers items. That's okay. Go ahead and comment below and let me know why. I also need to mention that YouTube has been monetizing my channel without my consent, obviously. There seem to be some ads running on these videos, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But if you have seen them, please note that I don't have any say as into what kind of ads they are running on this channel, and I don't have any say as into how long they are. Now, hopefully one day I can qualify to monetize my channel and have any control of what they're doing on this channel. So far, it's just a reminder that we are not in control of what's going on. So let me go ahead and get started and not waste your time, you guys. The 4th overrated item here on this list, you guys, is toilet paper rolls. You know, toilet paper rolls are bulky. They take too much space. They get ruined easily. I remember in 2020 reading an article by Eddie Lim on it's a Vice article that I was reading. And he was stating that we cannot eat toilet paper, we cannot drink it, we cannot use it to fuel our vehicles, or we cannot even use it to heat our homes. And then why are we stocking it up like there is no tomorrow? You see, for me, that was saying it all, because there is this exaggerated need for toilet paper that does not add up, in my opinion. You guys, we need to remember that we are not just prepping for shortages, but we are also prepping for imminent disasters that are pending. And some of them are basically already our reality as we speak. So I'm not so sure why we stock up so much toilet paper that is a stock for 3, 4, 5 years, or sometimes a decade. I mean, it's not clear as into how long some of the toilet paper can last. These people that I've seen stocking their toilet paper like there's no tomorrow. The worst thing I've heard is that people are stocking it up because everyone is doing it. Everyone is buying it. And that's the worst reason as a prepper there. You see, 2020 was the worst year for toilet paper, and it taught us it's important to have toilet paper backup at your home. But apparently we don't seem to know exactly how much. You see, based on what I've learned actually for the past 2 years as I've been prepping, a 1-year supply is enough, right? In 2020, toilet paper was back in stock and back in production within 2 to 4 months, just depending where you were. And looking at Ukraine right now, which has been at war for about 8 months now, yet the production of toilet paper is still there. It's not halted in any way, form. It's kind of hard to imagine what could completely halter the production of toilet paper other than World War III. But even then, you guys, probably within 6 months, we will see that production starting, to come back. So it's very good to have a list of supply for a year. And if you don't have that, see, your emergency supply should be in weatherproof containers. And it's good to get those, toilet paper tablets or portable toilet papers, because they're easily stockable. And you can easily put them in weatherproof containers, a lot of them. So I'm hoping that this helps, because there's a lot of people who are just stuffing their garages and stuffing their rooms with toilet paper. So moving on to the 3rd most overrated preppers item, and that is canned fruit. You guys, canned fruits are high acidic foods and therefore have a shorter shelf life than other canned items, and their shelf life is 18 months. Now, the issue here is that if temperatures are not controlled between 50 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, that shelf life get compromised to less than 12 months. Now, if you have a lot of these, think about it with the climate change issue, right? If you're not able to control temperature and you have a lot of these, it would be very difficult to go ahead and keep that stock in rotation. But that being said, high acidic food in cans are not good at all because they interact with the chemicals that make that can itself. And you will see most of the canned fruit, they tend to bulge and sometimes they explode. And that is an issue on its own, because if you are not checking your storage area where you store these canned items on a daily or weekly basis, that can cause a lot of problems within that storage area, like uninvited critters, laying eggs on these items, and sometimes just coming with all kind of illnesses that you really don't need. When the nonsense hit the fan, you don't want to be dealing with stuff like that, or having to try to clean up your canned items because of the mess that they have made in your storage area, right? You want to preserve as much water as much as you can. So personally, I prefer to go with freeze-dry fruits. They're a lot safer. They're a lot, they may be a lot of money, but they are a lot better than canned goods. So moving on to the second most overrated preppers item on this list, and that is precious metals. You see, precious metals will make your home a den of thieves, you guys. The worst thief of all is Uncle Sam, because apparently he can just issue an executive order that gives him authority to take your precious metals. And now there's a lot of bureaucracy on buying precious metals alone, which kind of makes sense. If the government in the long run want to take your gold, you will need to provide your ID and social security number. In that way, the dealer or your bank can go ahead and report you to IRS for the gold you bought. Now, they usually say your transaction has to be about $10,000. And then the dealer will report you. But if it's more than that, and then your bank will report you. That bureaucracy is causing a lot of loopholes that most people are trying to take advantage of, which in the long run will cause a lot of trouble for most people, even if they are not aware of these loopholes or they're not aware of these rules and regulations that they're trying to enforce, to take care of this issue with buying gold. Now, keep in mind that if you have a state that applies special taxes on your precious metals, you may not need to have your dealer or your bank reporting you. You may not need to worry about them reporting you. They will report you definitely. But if you're thinking, well, you're going to buy something for $3,000 or less, and then you're not going to need to be reported, guess what? If you are living in some of these states, they will go ahead and require special taxes, and just that process alone will report you into the system, and they will know that you have precious metals, depending how much you bought and how much you have to report on those special taxes. And if that is a case, you guys, that is just too much for me, because now if you have gold that is less than 10 grand, you still have, you still can be reported to IRS, or the system can still have your information that you bought this item. You bought it cash or not cash, you're still going to be reported that you bought this item. And so those who are taking loopholes, who are taking advantage of these loopholes, they are causing a lot of issues, and they can get in trouble. They can be indicted because it is criminal to do those things. Now, you guys, we just need someone to talk to us or tell us really about what goes on with this buying gold business, because it's not clear to me. There's a lot of information that is not coming up together. Some may need to have a special vault, a safe. In that way, you keep the thieves away from your home or keep your thieves away from you when the nonsense hit the fan, which may actually result in extra fees. Especially if you also have taxes in your state and you're trying to prevent those taxes, you may have to pay extra fees just to have that vault taking care of your gold. Another thing that precious metals have is that they're very expensive. I mean, talking about $2,000, $3,000, depending where you are. By the time you have a pound worth of gold, you have spent tens of thousands of dollars. Now, I personally just prefer to focus on fortifying my shelter, especially the one that I know that I have to shelter in place on. If anything happens around, at least I know I'm a little bit safer than actually going around buying gold with that much money. And so to move on, you guys, to the number one most overrated preppers item, and that is assault rifles. Now, you guys, this is another item that will make your home a den of thieves. Uncle Sam being one of them, because he wants your guns even today, right? And so it's very clear that he wants your guns. So imagine when there is civil unrest all over the streets of United States because the nonsense has hit the fan. Who do you think the government is going to go for first? But when I was reading the article about what's going on in Venezuela, that there are these gangs who are targeting people with big guns and people with ammo. And they seem to know exactly how to find them. Now, it's important for them because the guns at that, they're very expensive for them, and it's very difficult to find them. And you will know that when nonsense hit the fan, it will be very difficult to have access to these weapons, which is the reason why most people are buying as many as they can now to help prevent the issue or the issue they may face when, the nonsense hit the fan, the difficulties of finding these guns. But what I've noticed is that these gangs seems to know exactly how to find those who have guns, right? And they will basically put a bait into your property. In that way, you come up with your gun and threatening. Maybe the person they put in there is either a drunkard or a child, a teenage child who's been hired. People are disposable when nonsense hit the fan. And with these gangs, they know how to get disposable people, and they also know how to look for people with guns. And they will study you. Once they find out you have a gun, they will study you, trying to find ways to outsmart you. And so to me, that is just inviting the wrong people. There you are having a gun, you're thinking it's there to keep people away. It will keep some people away. But gangs, they are strictly looking for your guns. They are willing to die to get your guns. And that is the worst thing ever, right? Because now you're going to have to deal with these gangs. Another thing that can add to that situation being terrible is that the government will set you up with these gangs because, right, if there's civil unrest and the government doesn't have enough people, cannot pay enough people to take care of these issues, civil unrest on the streets, right? What's the best way other than, putting people with guns, especially rifles, with those who are gangs who are causing a lot of problems out there. And so the government then have all the information they need to know who has these assault rifles, and they just put you against these people, and that will put your life in danger and your family in danger in the long run, right? And so I just don't like, just looking into this, I was like, okay, I don't like what I'm seeing. I really don't like that. So besides the point, right, of these thieves and these gangs and the government, you see, assault rifles at this moment in Ukraine are proving to be obsolete. Even though drones are not weapons, they are doing a lot better job than assault rifles. Right? Because when you're using a drone, you don't need an intimidating confrontation with the person who is shooting at you, with the person who wants you dead more than you want them dead. And right now, what we're seeing in Ukraine is showing us that, there are people in Ukraine before the war who had these assault rifles. We haven't heard any small victories they may have had, dealing with the Russians in their country. Even those civilians that the government is about 18,000 assault rifles that were given to the just basic civilians during the start of war. And some of these civilians, of course, were for a short period of time. But we haven't heard anything. Maybe after the war, right? Because the war is still going on, but we haven't heard anything. Another thing you need to know about these assault rifles is that you need a special storage area. In that way, that storage area is preventing these guns from firing. It's protecting them from physical damage and even rusting in some cases, right? And it also is acting as a theft deterrent. That is not against the government, but that's just against, someone who's breaking into your home, which is leading me to something very important about this is liability, right? Liability is very important because you need to make sure that your guns are stored securely and they don't end up in the wrong hands. And if they do, that will put you in trouble. You're the one who's going to get in trouble. Majority of assault rifle people who are not, monitoring their guns and making sure that they are not stolen, right? They end up in jail. And it will be very difficult to keep track of your guns if you have tons and tons of them. It's very difficult to do that. So what I was laughing at is that when we hear about these mass shootings, we find out that a person with the handgun is the one who disarmed the person with the rifle who was going around crazy shooting at people. Now, this is just telling us, though, that size doesn't matter, right? If you know what you're doing and you know how to defeat a person with an assault weapon, you are more likely to do a better job than a person with that assault rifle. And so a lot of people run for the guns, they run to get these assault rifles just for the size alone and for the threat that they cause to those who are trying to enter their home, not realizing that, a person with a smaller gun may be able to take you down, depending on the situation. So you guys, unless you are really military trained as a prepper and you have a community of military trained preppers with these assault rifles, you don't need this because they are costly, they are bulky, they are heavy. You cannot even keep a low profile with these guns. It's just best to invest on the ability to self-defend with the handgun or just self-defense. Even with a knife, you may be better off than having an assault rifle. Anyways, thank you so much, you guys, for sticking around with me. And that is the end of this video now. And thank you so much for joining me, and thanks for subscribing, and stay tuned for the next video, and stay blessed.